Hello and welcome to the HiTech Virtual Boardroom. I am your host Sukriti, and I'm going to kickstart the week with a power-packed conversation on how AI-based resume screening is relevant for recruiters and candidates. While artificial intelligence has been around since almost a century now, it was only recently that AI made its debut in the hiring and recruitment arena. Use of AI in finding, screening, and assessing candidates gained rapid momentum during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and related to the lockdown issues that we were facing the past couple of years. Investing in recruitment and software and technology is currently the top priority for recruiters, according to a survey available in the market. In fact, the SHRM also reports that recruiters will use more such technologies to find talent and screen candidates at scale. This trend does not show signs of slowing down the pandemic or the hybrid mode that we are working on. The advantage of AI and the machine learning powered HR tech continue to attract employers as remote hiring opens up a global landscape of talent and possibility. So, employers and recruiters take that advantage of tools and they will find AI resume screening benefiting at both the ends. But how? How is it critical for recruiters as well as tech professionals who are seeking a job and for recruiters who are actually looking for positions to be closed? Well, I'm here to unveil what our industry leaders are considering, or I should say, are talking about. Folks, please join me in welcoming Mr. Satish Vagadia, Technology Head, Business Transformation from Searce; Dinesh, Senior Director of Engineering from NICE; Mellissa Ferrier, HR Head, MFG and HiTech Sectors, A2MSU Wipro; and Deepti, Director TA&D from Honeywell. Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation, and I'm looking forward to some amazing insights that each one of you are going to add on to while we start our conversation. But before we move on, I would request you to please go ahead, introduce yourself, and tell me how excited you are for this conversation. So let's begin with you, Dinesh.
Thanks, Sukriti, for giving me this opportunity. My name is Dinesh Wadhwani. I've been a part of this industry for about 25 years. I started my career being in India, lived in US for a few years, in Singapore, in Australia, in UK, and then Pune is where I found myself my home. I've been here for many years, doing product engineering, been part of some service industries also, but product is where my heart is because it gives you a lot of breadth to play around. So that's what I do. At NICE, I'm a senior director managing the portfolio for customer experience products across a team of about 400 people in Pune. I'm super excited to be a part of this discussion. I started my journey, when the resumes used to be 7 pages long, to where it is like 3/4 of a page today. So it would be interesting to see how AI is helping us and what kind of discipline and rules we have brought into the whole screening process for the resume. Looking forward to this discussion. Thanks, Sukriti.
Thank you, Dinesh. Deepti?
Thanks, Sukriti. Hi, everyone. I'm Deepti. I come with around 18 years of experience in HR gamut. Primarily, most of my experience has been into talent acquisition and diversity and inclusion initiatives. Currently, I lead talent acquisition and diversity for Honeywell across all business lines. Honeywell is 13,000 plus strong and still growing, a very diverse organization. I share the same excitement as that of Dinesh because AI has been pivotal for talent acquisition per se, and especially in a country like India, which is very young. Our average age is, I think, around 27, 28. So every year there's so much talent that's passing out and being available for jobs. And also there is humongous lateral and skills movement that happens across IMCs. So very excited. AI has been pivotal and critical. And I will wait to kind of see how the discussion goes, learn from my colleagues, and also kind of contribute to this. Thanks, Sukriti.
Thank you so much, Deepti. Mellissa?
Thanks, Sukriti. Lovely to be here. My name is Mellissa, and I look after HR for the manufacturing and high-tech sectors, which is over 15,000 employees globally. for Wipro. I'm also, I guess, an honorary Indian. I've been here for 15 years, but originally from Australia. It's a wonderful country, and I've had such a fantastic, career here. My background is occupational psychology. I kind of fell into HR over 15 years ago, and I find it really, really helps me. Today, I'm really looking forward to learning from my fellow panel members, and in particular, how do we hold on to the person-centered? We don't lose touch of our natural intuition when we're making such big decisions. So great to be here and looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Mellissa. Satish?
Hey, thanks, Sukriti, and good. I'm like really excited for this discussion from industry leaders. Like my name is Satish. I'm developer at heart, but by profession is a technology head. Kind of handling multiple software engineering deliveries here at Searce. At Searce, I learned a lot, moving from application design to cloud architect, security as well. And luckily, I got a chance to work on a lot of automations. Let it be logistics documentation automation, let it be HR, like resume automation in terms of the process, and was a key member in terms of infusing this AI as well to automate a lot of things. So so like AI is really going to be helpful in terms of screening those resume. I would say just like prioritizing what could be the best for the industry as well as for the candidate. And I think the discussion is going to be really great here, and I'm really super excited here.
Thank you so much, Satish. And I'm also looking forward to some amazing insights as I unfold my, box of questions that I have for each one of you. So let's get started. And audience, just take a note in case if you have any questions which is relevant and which you think should be answered as per our topic today. Please feel free to drop in, and we'll try and take them up in the end. But before we start, of course, let's get rolling with the questions. So 52% of hiring professionals say that finding and selecting candidates is the most challenging part of the hiring process entirely. Although the search conversion is low, they must, try to maintain objectivity and, adequately compare those with those they spoke, around in the interviews and whenever they do so. So implementing AI elements aims to eliminate this routine and reduces the search time and help maintain that objectivity from start to finish. Deepti, you help us understand that how is AI helping as screening tools to find better candidates? Let's have it from the perspective of the, from the talent acquisition perspective here. That how is it, helping you out when it comes to when we talk of eliminating the mundane routine and reducing the search time altogether?
No, great question to start off with, Sukriti. So if I may add, I would want to add another dimension to your question. So when you say how is it helping me or my community to screen better, another dimension that I'd like to add is in a timely manner. So the purpose of AI is to, if I compare talent acquisition to all your, current e-commerce industry, Amazons and others of the world, is how do you create customer delight? And who's my customer? My customer is the hiring manager, and of course the candidate. So how do I create customer delight? And AI is like at the center of the gravity for that, right? So I'll come back to your question. So I just wanted to add in a timely manner to your question. So the first aspect in which AI helps in a talent acquisition process is it increases speed multifolds. So, rewind to like 18 years back to what Dinesh said, right? Resumes was 7-8 pages long, and practically there was no ATS. ATS is applicant tracking system for the benefit of the audience. And so there was no ATS. They were used to maintain hard copies, and then Excel came in, so we used to punch it into Excel. But a recruiter's life was mulled into screening resume after resume by himself or herself, and then coming down to the relevant ones. And it used to take days. Now those days are now hours or probably minutes It depends on the kind of AI enabled tool or technology that you're using, right? So that is one, that it cuts the time required, or it kind of gives the recruiter a value added time back, wherein he or she can go sit with the hiring manager and actually increase their business acumen to give the best relevant candidate. So that's one, speed and agility that AI provides. Second is getting very quickly closer to the best suited candidate. And how do we do that? AI in an array of assessments. And a couple of years back, we only had technical and functional assessments, right? And now you have cognitive assessments also available. So on one hand, if I'm hiring a developer, just like Satish said, I will have certain technical hackathons that I can help my candidates go through and come out. And then I can also have, let's say, the selected ones go through a cognitive assessment, which is, and cognitive assessment can be built, which is core to my company's values. So if Honeywell stands for values like think big, act with urgency, I will have a cognitive assessment based on that. So that's two. And what this does is it greatly reduces unconscious bias by a recruiter and a hiring manager. So when you have a very transparent result in front of you, you're able to make unbiased decisions. And while Mellissa is right, we don't want to leave the humanness out of it. There will be still some bit of impact or subjectivity that we need to bring in, from our humane standpoint. But it still helps a lot to cut, that mirror image that, okay, I like myself and I will hire someone who's like me, right? So that's where AI really comes in it and gives a very fruitful result. And the third aspect wherein AI helps not only screening candidates better, but throughout the TA life cycle is that it really helps in some intelligent analytics. Things like, our stakeholders really like. So for example, if DevOps as a skill or embedded as a skill or Salesforce as a skill is in really high demand, and the AI can produce a report, let's say after a month or 2 months, that okay, you hire 200, only 100 accept your offer. So you can take some proactive steps to ensure that the next time you have a requirement that is hit, you are able to kind of create a buffer, right? Because you have some proactive analysis with you. So I think these are some of the measures, Sukriti, or you can say some of the arsenals that AI has given to a recruiter and a hiring manager to be able to make quick and intelligent decisions on hiring. So I think I'm going to rest here, and over to you, Sukriti, for any add-ons or anything else that you might want me to answer.
Sure, Deepti, thank you so much for that. And I think you've actually mentioned some very important elements like agility and how it's the unbiased opinion and the conscious call that we make while we are evaluating the candidate. There's so many things that we put into force, and technology is just aiding that, so that we are able to make more conscious and more valid decisions when it comes to hiring candidates. I will now move to Mellissa, because since we're talking about the screening part. Mellissa, you spoke that you have a psychological background as well, and you pulled yourself into this HR vertical. You tell us that how does resume screening tools work in today's digital world? As Deepti covered some important elements, but from the digital perspective, how is it working around the globe, and what are the advancements that people are looking at, and where are we still stuck from the India perspective or globally? How would you want to put it out?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sukriti. And as we've heard from Deepti, AI has really disrupted organizations' recruiting practices. I mean, she spoke about the higher speed, the efficiency compared to traditional screen and assessment practices. Can you imagine you're looking over, lengthy resumes, hundreds of them, gosh. So I think there's tremendous advantage. And even in my organization, we hire on average 10,000 employees every quarter. So I think like my organization, as well as globally, a lot of larger companies with such large hiring demands really do leverage now these AI-based screening platforms, I guess to help win the war for talent, which is, it's hard at the moment with the great attrition. But so how does it really work? I think that's where, I think a lot of people on the call today are quite excited and probably know a little bit already. But, it starts really with analyzing information from the job profile and identifies existing candidates in the system. We look at employee referrals, and also you can look at profiles available on many job portals like Naukri, Monster, LinkedIn, and then using an algorithm. It targets candidates that have the relevant experience and skills. It's quite clever. It prioritizes candidates on the base of their skill and experience, and then it essentially reveals a score which is stacked, ranked, and then the candidates who are most suitable kind of are ranked higher. But having said that, it's none of these AI-based platforms are perfect, and I guess this is inherent of all smart, intelligent platforms, is they can't really think outside the box, and they take a lot of time to learn. You're kind of pre-feeding data and past experiences to become smart and accurate. I guess the early days at Wipro, that I guess did put off a lot of recruiters because the initial results may not be that positive, and maybe some of the profiles on the system may be dated, they may not be prioritized, and sometimes a candidate that may come up highly ranked may not be available or actively searching. So that's some of the issues. Next, I think given that AI screening tools are programmed to look at keywords and primary skills, sometimes they might incorrectly shortlist. For example, if I'm an experienced Java recruiter, the system may match me for a Java developer role, even though I'm a recruiter. So that's the added complexity of then filtering on the role instead. So there's some of these issues that just may result in many recruiters going back to the old way. And I think, just to call out from a psychological perspective, and it's really taken off, I think, particularly in the US and Europe countries because of, the larger legal risk as well. Because, what they found early on, while, it does improve consistency, provide a lot of feedback because you can automate the feedback as well, unintentionally, early days it used to discriminate against underrepresented groups, particularly existing employees that may not be representative of the application pool, which that can really limit workforce diversity and increase homogeneity, which is hiring a lot of people that are similar to each other, which can really impact innovation and creativity. There was a famous study where they were looking at supermarket cashier positions, and they sourced 85% of the profiles were women. So it really targeted on that gender bias pool of applicants. So again, really, key point. I think just to kind of, call out, while AI does reduce human bias, and we're full of cognitive biases, some of our human intuition can be really accurate. AI has been called that it ignores people's personal attributes. It only focuses on specific skills and behavior, and it's quite robotic. So, it's been criticized often for lacking human touch and the soft side of HR. So I think this whole increase because of that, from regulators and lawmakers, because of the fairness and lack of transparency. So, and of course, from the platform perspective, they don't want to share their algorithms because they think it'll help candidates gain their rehiring. It'll allow them to game the system. So I probably think, it's a little bit like a black box. So I perhaps think there's a lot of you on the call today here because you want to learn a lot more about it. So just final point, I think the key is really auditing algorithms to make sure that they're fair. And I think supplementing AI resume screening sessions, so, with structured interviews, which help in terms of cultural and values fitment.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And I think we are becoming more aware of the fact, but I think from the adaptation perspective, we're still not there, right? We're still trying to, reach at a point wherein we can confidently say that it's like 100% adaptation, and we're working on it. So maybe gradually we'll all be there, but I think, as you said, the human quotient, the intelligence of human decision making will persist, and that's undeniable no matter how much automation we strive for and we get into. So folks, these were two perspectives that our talent acquisition and HR leaders added. I will now move on to the two tech leads, and we'll find out what they think and what are their perspective when it comes to hiring and looking at candidates. So Dinesh, I will move to you first. So the Deepti and Mellissa, both of them spoke from the recruit's perspective, and how AI is, being relevant and helpful. I would want you to add on to, from the candidate's perspective. You are the senior director of engineering from a background, you know how things work, and you have had a past wherein you've worked upon these things. And as you mentioned, you began your career wherein the resume said, maybe a 12 pager, but now we've not even like half of it right now, and things have evolved, and we are in a different world altogether. So one, tell us about the evolution, and tell us that how can candidates better define their qualities to increase their chances of being searched, because as Dipti mentioned, there are ATS, SEOs are put into while recruiters are looking at it. So from the candidate perspective, please help our audience understand that how can they have better resume representations, and how can they actually increase their chances.
Yeah, thanks, Sukriti. Wonderful comments, Melissa and Deepti. You have given me a good perspective, not that I already had, but you have given me a good perspective of how AI helps, and I'm not going to touch that aspect of what we are looking for. I like to take ourselves back to our college days, where we used to write answers and pages of answers in our notebooks. And, even then we didn't used to do so well, and the question used to be, I wrote so much but I didn't get so good marks. The problem was that there was so much information which examiners do not have time to look at. And when I got into my later year of my colleges, somebody guided me, Dinesh, you have to start highlighting the points that you want to mention, and even if you don't write all that you want to write about a point, if you touch upon the most specific points, I think that's where you get points, because that's where you get marks, and examiner would know that you know all. Okay, so now where the resumes have gone from 10 pages to 1 pages, the importance of information has not gone away, right? We are still looking for all the information that used to be there, however in a summarized format, however in a format that gives us a very good picture of what people really want, what people are really looking at. I usually believe that there are two aspects of resumes when we talk about. One is, of course, the AI part of it, which is what the tool is looking for, and second is what a candidate wants to highlight. So I believe there are four major things I would want to see in every resume, to be honest. The first is what role an individual is playing. Given a title, and we have tons of titles, somebody calls them consultant, somebody calls them senior developers, somebody calls them principal engineers, and tons of things like that. So I think, one, from the industry perspective, I definitely believe that there has to be some standardization, because unless that happens, it will be very difficult, to keep on identifying these titles, so to say. So we have to be more role based than title based in a sort of things. Second more important thing I believe is experience. Sometimes I really struggle when I to find in some resumes what kind of experience a person has had. If he has changed 3 different jobs in 3 different roles, it's difficult to, for me to ascertain how many years of Java experience this person has. The first is role, the second one is experience. The third most important thing I believe is the skills. People, these days it's a fashion, that if I write 15 different skills on my resume is good. This is a myth. And
Yes.
these youngsters don't understand. They try to write everything. For example, I was interviewing somebody that day, and he had written Angular, and I asked him, what have you done on Angular? He says, I can create a simple page on Angular. But then that's not Angular knowledge that you have. You are wasting my time. The AI picked up Angular, picked up version 12, and they shortlisted the resume. This is where AI fails. But candidates have to highlight what exactly they do, because they need to know that they are not only wasting their time, they're also wasting somebody else's time by putting a wrong resume there, right? So I think their skills and their expertise and their skill has to be highlighted very clearly, that people can look at it, quickly identify and close it. Fourth most important thing is, which I believe a lot of our people don't know how to write in their resume, is the impact that they are creating, right? And I don't know how AI would help us here, because this is more of qualitative thing. But one of the things I would like to see in my anybody's resume is, how they have created an impact. When a person writes senior developer or a software engineer, we know that they are developer. There's no point writing their job description again, I'm involved in development. That's stupid, right? If you're a developer, it's understood that you'll be doing development. What I expect to see is how you have created an impact. Is there a feature that you redesigned which got more value for customers? That's the impact I'm trying to look in the resumes. Especially, these days I'm hiring directors, and it's astonishing to see that even directors don't know how to write a resume. But it's interesting to see a lot of people writing a lot of things which make really less sense at their level. For every level, the resume has to be different. A junior developer's resume and a team lead or a senior person's resume would differ. And what these people do is they copy a resume, change a few things, and their resume is ready. I remember when I created my first resume, it took me about 7 hours and 3 days, and two different reviews by two different people to get my first resume out there, right? Because that it was so important for us to get the right information on the table for people to look at the resume. So I think how they create an impact is really important thing. So to summarize, roles, experience, skill, and impact. These are the four most important thing I would want to see in a resume. Like Mellissa and Deepti were saying, gender bias and etc. are taken care by the AI, so we should not be worrying. And I think we are living in the world where these are not no longer important. To be honest, I mean, I do not recall me and anybody in my team ever looking at a resume if this is a boy's resume or a girl's resume. So that's, I think we have gone past those times. So that's really not important. Even the date of births and things are not important, because people could be 35 years and they could have just started their career in UX. So the experience, the relevant experience is less. So I'm not looking at age, I'm not looking at experience or the years of experience. I'm looking at the impact that they've created. And it's important that our kids, our youngsters, our people who are switching jobs every 1.5 years these days or less than that, they need to highlight how I'm creating that impact. Sukriti, please raise your hand if I've crossed my time, okay? Because this is one of my favorite topics. This is hitting us all these
Go
days.
ahead. I
And
have something else also to ask. Please go ahead. Once you finish,
Yeah.
I'll throw up another question.
sure. No, to be honest, last 2 years have completely shown us a different world. People are switching jobs left, right, and center, switching job in 3, 4, 5 months. And I think an important aspect of us is, we recruiters and the hiring managers have to be a lot more disciplined than these kids who are looking away for jobs. Our business actually drives us to hire and pick up any of the resume that's there, available there. I think we have to be a little more disciplined in saying no to resumes. I think that's something that we are not doing as much. So, we should say no to bad resumes. We should say no to resumes where people have 5 jobs in 4 years. These are not the resumes that we should be looking at. So yeah, that's I'll rest here and allow you to ask more questions.
So
I won't let you. I
Sukriti,
have something else. Yes, Deepti, go
yeah.
ahead.
So because there was so much of heart that came out from Dinesh on one aspect, I also wanted to share or add on to, while everything that Dinesh mentioned that a candidate should do, I think bang on. But one thing that is consistent, right, for a fresher to a director is being authentic. Please, do not confuse yourself or your recruiter or anyone by writing fancy words. It does
Yeah.
not help. If you are a developer, you are a developer. If you are a Java recruiter, you need to write Java recruiter. You will get a relevant opportunity for that, rather than writing recruiter, looking for talent, and huge words and summaries which make it not only confusing for a recruiter but also an AI technology, because that AI technology will not be able to pick up what you do, what is your core. So I think be authentic. Do not get swayed by good Oxfordian
I
dictionary.
totally
Just
agree.
be authentic to yourself. Yeah,
The
I
recent
just
one I
want to.
read was, the recent one I read was, I'm an agile enthusiast. Yes, you are an enthusiast. I'm a golf enthusiast. Doesn't mean I'm good at golf. So
That's
I
correct.
agree. There's this trend. So the last conversation I had with industry leaders, this is very critical, aspect of the soft skill, which was communication. And our tech leaders and HR leaders emphasized on the fact that while we are trying to, kind of hire developers, that is also one of the important things that we're trying to look at in today's time when we see, developers closely, working with the clients in terms of what the business objective is and how they're trying to fulfill the, requirements. So, while we are trying to do this, I think that forces the entire generation of, today to be more, adhered to those jargons which makes them look fancy. Oh, I know these many words and I know these things. But I think this is exactly wherein the SEO plays an important role. Mellissa, you remember we had a conversation around how much people are aware of the functionality of AI and how does this entirely work. So, but going back to that, Dinesh, I would like to go back to you first, and then I'll come to you, Melissa. You'll answer that for me. But Dinesh, help us understand when you say that people should reflect what they have worked upon, the projects or the changes they have worked upon. How do you expect them to represent that? Any particular style, any particular way that you recommend, as a tech lead that that helps them in terms of getting that highlight or maybe just seek that attention of the recruiter.
So, Sukriti, let's look at our industry.
Mm-hmm.
75% of the projects that we are working on are common sense products. These are
Correct.
used by general population. Only
Mm-hmm.
25% of the products are domain specific products.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, if you are working on those products which are domain extensive, which need to highlight something you have done in the domain, they should include some description about the product. If you are working on a shopping site, everybody knows what a shopping site is. You don't have to describe what a shopping site does. You don't have to describe what a e-commerce website would do. So you have to be very specific, and there's no silver bullet for writing any description. You can still be working on shopping site, but you may have integrated with 4 different interfaces, right? And in that case, you have to highlight, while it's a shopping site, you have worked on different interfaces which integrates 5 different solutions, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically very important that you highlight what kind of work you are doing within the specific domain that you are trying to highlight. Okay, so if I was to just to give you an example, I said, I manage a portfolio across customer experience. Now, customer experience is a wide word, but within a customer experience, you when you go and call a bank, they do a recording of your software. If you have worked on a recording piece, you should write that I'm working on the recording piece of customer experience. Writing working on customer experience doesn't give me any information about what a person is doing, right? So specific drilling down, and these products that we work on, these are usually 20, 25, 30 people teams with 7 different features. Writing about the product doesn't help me. What helps is, what part of the product have you worked on? That's something that's going to relate me to hire you for a job, right? So I think going into a little more specifics is going to help me when I look at the resume, and being on a very high level doesn't help me at all. Trust me, it doesn't help me at all, because it doesn't give me any idea what a person has done.
I know that's correct.
Wonderfully put.
Dinesh. I would like to add that point where
Go ahead.
like
Go ahead.
when I
Yes.
see the
Yes.
resume, and people have written about the product more rather than what they have done, I'm really kind of laugh on and confused as well, like whether I need to recruit that candidate or that product. I mean, like, am I need to buy that product, or I'm just going to get that candidate in? So I agree, completely agree, Dinesh. Where like, if they write specific thing, what their role is, right? What they have done, maybe technical. It can be non-technical as well, being a technical engineer, right? It's their role, right, about that product, and it really helps. So I completely agree, Dinesh. I mean, that's people.
I'll just conclude. I'll just conclude with an example from this morning. I'm currently recruiting people in voice domain. We are doing some work on the voice domain, and people that we are trying to hire from are Cisco, Avaya, and places like that. Now, my AI tool gave me all people who have worked ever on Cisco and Verizon or places like these. When I looked at the resume, they had worked on a billing application in Avaya. Now, that's not going to help me. That's not what I was looking for, right? So this is where people have to be a little more smarter, and of course, our AI tools will have to be equally smarter to pick up things like these. But that's a simple example of what I was saying.
Thank you, Dinesh, and thank you, Satish. I think we, kind of covered it in a very detailed manner, and I think those important details are very important, Dinesh, because when leaders like you talk and recommend or give any sort of tips, it's important at the same time you also emphasize that how to do it. Just telling them to do it is not sufficient. How to do it is more important. So thank you so much for that. Mellissa, I'll come to you. Before I go to Satish for the final question, I would like to, go to you and tell me that how much awareness do you think we have, internationally about this whole AI screening, and what are the kind of, perspectives that both recruiters as well as the candidates hold at this point in time? How much awareness is there of the right usage and the way it is being used?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's interesting because I think Indians are very tech savvy and probably a lot more advanced than other organizations. And I think with, demonetization, which happened overnight, COVID, I mean, the rate of digital adoption here is phenomenal. And which is why it's such an exciting place to live and work. But I think, yeah, I mean, as Dinesh, and what a wonderful insight and passion you speak, Dinesh. But I think people are still, need to build that awareness about how to update their resume, how to focus on keywords, and highlight what is authentic, as Deepti said as well, to kind of call out what is unique about them. I think, that's really important. But I think just compared to international, I think, because the population is young and very quite savvy. I think there's also perhaps a cultural piece, which I see it all the time. I think, and because majority of the workforce has a strong engineering background, and still today, my sister-in-law, it's engineering or science, and we always have a laugh to say, look, there's more options now. But just, the framing ability, less is more, being able just to do a 2-page resume and really think about, what is my key achievements? What is my key skill? The impact. I love what Dinesh said. I think just the constraint of that, I think there's perhaps a little bit to go, and that's why having these sessions are so useful. But less is more, including when you're doing PPTs. Go for an image, go for a sentence, not 50 words on the slide. But I think a little bit cultural, the detail orientation, and I think the framing ability needs to get better here, which I'm sure it will happen. Yeah, just to add on. But I'd love to hear from Satish as well. I know you've got the lucky last question.
Thanks, Mellissa. Yeah, so Satish, so after deep diving all the 3 perspectives, now I'm coming to the important aspect for the organization. You are an integral part who is into decision making of the organization. So how are these screening methods a time and a cost saver?
Sure, yeah, it's a really good question actually. That's because these are 2 very critical resources, right? Time and cost that we need to really get into. So yeah, so before I jump into my point, I just really would like to summarize wherein let's consider AI as a tool, right? So like the way that we use the different tools, right? So it can be presentation, it can be Excel sheet, it can be a PDF files, right? So it's another tool. So first of all, if it is a tool, right, it will learn on its own. So improvement will be there, accuracy will be there, right? And as Mellissa said, right, it's a black box, right? Nobody will share the algorithm, what they do, right? So, and that's true, right? So, what we do generally, and that's what required, because based on the project, based on the customer need, right, the requirement changes. right? So I'll give an example wherein even we use internally the AI methods in terms of recruitment, in terms of resume processing. We use a tool, Happier Hire, for our process wherein, so it's like it has to be customizable, and that's what, as a recruiter and as a candidate, we both need to understand first. So for example, what generally it will be done is like keyword based. What we have talked more right now since beginning is keyword based screening, right? So, and that creates a problem. What Dinesh has taken an example of an Angular JS, right? So it's a keyword based resume screening through AI. There are two more dimension as well. One is how the sentences are formed, a grammatical as well as the sequential term, right? So that's also create an impact. So for example, if you are a cloud architect and you are writing elastic cloud storage and then comma, and then you are writing a particular S3 or Google Cloud Storage bucket, right? So it doesn't make any sense, right? Like, because you are writing both the things together, right? So how you pick the keywords sequentially also it makes sense, right? So it's not only keyword, but how you form the sentences. That is another dimension that we should be using as an AI tool, which also again save the time and cost front in terms of a resume screening. And the third one is the statistics. So see, for some profile it is required that the candidate has to be stable, right? Like, should not be moving organization to organization, right? Some of the project it requires that, okay, we need a variety knowledge, right? Because you need to talk to the customer in terms of as a pre-sales engineer maybe. So how as a recruiter you fine tune those parameters, right? I need weightage more on the keyword, I need a weightage more on the statistical analysis, I need a weightage more in terms of how the resume is presented. So if you fine tune those, right, the AI tool will really work best, right? And here from both the perspective, see, neither company wants a particular candidate to be rejected who is a good fit, right? And the same thing from the candidate side as well, right? They don't need to be kind of rejected on the first round or the first screening round, right? So that has to be the perspective. Let's not worry about more whether the wrong candidate is selected or not, right? Because anyways there is a human touch afterward, right? There is a human round, right? There is a round 1 or 2, as Mellissa said, right? We need to add that, right? We are not going to remove, nobody is going to remove that, but the AI will help at the first place in terms of tagging those resumes. I will not say select or reject, I would say tag. So when you tag those resumes using your AI tool, right, it will be easy to figure it out. And whatever parameter that you choose, it should give some set of resumes to scan through, right? So that way really helps, right? Some companies are product based companies, right? Some companies are service based companies. Someone wants a very specific domain knowledge at the necessity. So those should be the parameter, right? It should be adjustable parameter wherein algorithm should acquire and process those resumes. So that is what we generally do, and that's why kind of we have learned that lot as well, where and we have one funny thing in our HR team as well, saying that if we find a bad resume, we are kind of little happy rather than being sad, saying that he is not knowing how to write a resume, so he is a good candidate because he will not get job outside, right? So so it's like different perspective, right? It's like, how do you check it, how do you know, but yeah, when you work like scale, what Mellissa said, 10,000 candidates, right, per quarter, is a huge scale, right? So there you need a some process in place, and it requires a custom process. It's like some parameter you adjust, right, and then it should filter out and give us some set of resume which really requires a manual intervention outside. And it's like, it's keep learning, right? AI say that keep learning and help me learning as well, so I'll improve, give me a time. So that is what my perspective in terms of AI.
Thank you so much, Satish. And I would also like to, now that we're talking about shortlisting those profiles, and as Melissa said, of course, humanly, it's not possible to shortlist 10,000 people, manually look at their resumes and then, pick them up. So, our market study of these conversations have helped us to come up with developer profiles. So, tagging as a developer community, we conduct hackathons, coding competitions, like almost every day. For us, it's a very consistent process. And people participate here. And what these developer profiles that we've built is, of course, an AI based. And those profiles are based surely onto a person's capability and competency of the history of their participation into several hackathons, their expertise in maybe a programming language, their competency in a particular format of hackathon. So we're trying to bridge the gap between the recruiter as well as the candidate, so that when a recruiter sits down to maybe find a Java developer, let's just say, we can give them the top 50 Java developer profiles that we have, so that still manageable. You would still do that search part, pick up the keywords if you think that's relevant, because one, that's an updated one, that's the latest information that you'll get, unbiased, because it's AI built, of course, as we say. And you also get to know about the project ideas or the innovation that Dinesh just spoke about. That what are the kind of innovation one has worked upon and how good he or she is into it. So we are trying to holistically build something that that can actually help people, because having a huge community of developers all together in our system, I think we are the right ones to take the decision to move this whole process and elevate this for both you as well as the candidates to have a better experience, right? Having said that, I would now move. So we've spoken about almost every aspect here, but things of being relevance that we have started with. I think it's time for all of you to share that the trends that recruiters and candidates should swear by when it comes to staying relevant in the IT industry. Because I think industry is like constantly evolving, and every day we see something new. So keeping yourself updated with the industry benchmarking of the requirements of what other people are looking at, I think it's very crucial for people to be updated and be very aware of what's happening. So just to add on to your perspective of staying relevant in the market for both candidates and recruiters. Satish, let's begin with you this time.
Sure. Thanks for asking that question. I used to give one story to the people because I love mentoring freshers, and that's what I like. I'm doing from last 15 years, and I enjoy doing that. And they always ask, saying that, hey, which cloud platform I should learn, right? Whether I should learn all of them, whether I should learn all front end technologies, right? Because like new tools are getting added very frequently. So my answer is like, uh, you generally drive all the cars, you learn all the cars? No, right? You just learn one car, right? One type of car, maybe manual driving or an automatic transmission, right? Just one. Be expert, right? Just get into one particular tool or one particular vertical, get an expertise, and whenever required, whenever the work required, whenever the project required, right, it will be quick for you to jump from one to another, right? So, and then time will learn, time will teach you, right? You don't need to be expert everywhere. Otherwise, you will lose the relevance there, and you won't be able to get that decision fast. So, so that's what I generally ask them, saying that, okay, don't get into, first make your mind. Everybody's required in the industry, right? Front-end developers, back-end developers, database engineers, everybody's equal weightage, right? So what your interests are, select that first, get into one vertical, go little deeper. I mean, become, so I don't say expert. My word always tell them, saying that, are you comfortable? See, the comfort implies expertness, right? So I'm an expert, right? So I, instead of saying expert, I always say, are you comfortable, right? So once you are comfortable with that particular technology, you can move here and there. So that's what helped me as well. I'm still, after 20 years of experience, I'm still hands-on. I do coding, right? So that's what helped me. I mean, wherein no need to learn everything, you just be comfortable.
Lovely. And very few people have this, that after reaching up to a certain position, get back to your roots and still maintain that balance of not stop doing from where you started, right? Thank you so much, Satish, and I really appreciate sharing that fact, because most of our developers think that after reaching up to a certain position, from an executive to a tech leader, maybe you are just into decision making and you don't just know things by core. But thank you for sharing that part. Thanks a lot. I would now move to Mellissa. Mellissa, what do you think? How can one stay relevant in today's innovating world?
Yeah, and it's so true. I mean, I'm so happy that Satish called that out because you know, days of the generalist are over. You have to be a specialist. You have to you know, go a little deeper because it's so complex. And you know, you have to keep yourself up to date, and it does get harder as you get older. But you have to keep going, and you know, it's incredibly good for you as well. You feel good. The challenge, the intellectual challenge is really important, as is other challenges in life. But I think just from the AI piece, look, it's definitely here to stay. We've talked a lot about efficiency and as I called that earlier, you know, 10,000 employees quarterly on average. I mean, it's just a crazy number. I think maybe to call out what perhaps hasn't been spoken about is the candidate experience. And a lot of the research says it's actually quite negative. You know, the whole automation of the application experiences, like it does trigger a rejection letter, nicely worded, but where I see, you know, particularly for employers and recruiters, HR that are on the call, I think a lot of it is to do with, you know, the organization's attractiveness and their intentions to apply for the role as well. So I think, you know, just the branding piece, the unique values, Glassdoor, I know, you know, ourselves, we put a lot of work into that as well. So then they actually apply. And I think, as everybody's called out as well, update your resume regularly, use the keywords, be concise, less is more, and that will really, really help, you know, your profile being shortlisted. But I think just a couple of points just to add.
Thank you, Mellissa. Dinesh, I will now move to you. What do you think you know, one can do to keep themselves updated with the market?
So I'll say one thing very important, one for employer and one for the candidates. One thing I keep telling to every team member that I meet is, you know, guys, if you're an engineer, do not latch yourself with a specific technology. Like Satish was saying, you adapt, because technology is a means to solution. As an engineer, you create solutions, and you should not be bound by a technology to create a solution. I started my career being a D2K and a COBOL developer. Then I learned Java, and then probably if I start writing technology on my resume, there will be more than 100. So guys, do not stick yourselves to a technology. That's a bad way to guide your career. Okay, so keep yourself flexible, keep learning new things. That's how you grow, that's how you enrich yourself. To the organizations, I would definitely say, guys, do not lower your standards. We are in a place where I don't think, like Mellissa was said, you know, 10,000 jobs. I'm sure she has not got 10,000 new headcount. Probably there's been a lot of attrition, and you know, within the industry, what's happening is a musical chair. People are moving from one place to another, and there's another person occupying the chair. So there aren't so many jobs. I think we need to keep our benchmarks and standard where they were 2 years ago, or 3 years or 5 years ago. Let's not lower our standards, because if you want to lower our standards and if we get wrong people in the organization, it would lead to involuntary attrition anyways. You'll not be able to deliver on time, and overall quality of the organization will go down. So for the organizations to be relevant, it's important not to lower their benchmarks at all. So these are the two things which I, you know, keep on telling my leaders and my team members. Guys, be flexible. Guys, don't lower your benchmarks. In fact, take them higher. That's what I do.
Thank you so much, Dinesh. I think you know, that really makes sense. And when directions come from leaders like you, I think that's more practical rather than abiding by to what's happening in the market. Because with the decision makers, and you were parallelly working with the business objective, and you know what the industry calls for. So thank you so much for that, Deepti.
Okay, thanks, Sukriti. Now, I think everyone's really kind of, said wonderful and very relevant things. And one thing to look out for from an employer standpoint is the customer delight part. The term that I started my conversation with. So if I'm a TA professional, I have two key stakeholders: a hiring manager and a candidate. And I think while we have really moved towards creating a hiring manager good experience, I think coming to Melissa's point, there is still a lot to catch up on creating candidate experiences which are wow experiences, right? Not only for the ones which are selected, because they're happy, they got selected, they got a job, so they don't have a lot to complain, but people who could not make their way in. So we need to have our AI learn every day to see that how can we give a more personalized yet automated response. It has to have, there has to be a little marriage happening there. So I think that customer delight for a candidate is something that an employer still needs to catch up on. And I think it's happening, but it still has a way to go. For candidates out there, for the external market, I'm going to go back, be authentic and be consistent. Do not, less is more. So as I said, everyone said anything. So be very honest about what you're doing. Don't get swayed by, flowery language. Be true and be very bulleted. And as you get higher in the corporate ladder or in your own journey, your own venture that you want to do, you will realize that, it's the focus which is important, not really how long have you written something or how long is your PPT. So if you've created impact, your two bullets will give the story. So I think be honest, be authentic. That's for the external world. But for us as employers, we need to kind of do a little bit work on candidate experience. So I think those are two trends that I see, or two call outs that I can kind of share from my side.
Thank you so much, Deepti. I think we had very diverse and very useful insights from all four of you. And putting them all together, I think the screening of AI that we are doing, the entire tool that is, that has an advantage, makes it more attractive for businesses worldwide, as well as the candidates who are applying for these attractive business models. So, remembering of what our conversation was all about. Thank you for sharing all the relevant pointers for the recruiters as well as the candidates. I'm sure people who are watching us live right now have made their notes. What Dinesh mentioned, what you mentioned from the recruiter's perspective, and from from the candidate perspective, the representation of projects and everything. And having decided to give it a shot for your company, as I mentioned earlier, if it's a recruiter or a candidate, you can give it a shot through our TG Pro profiles, and it is available on our forum. Go participate. The more you participate, the more skill you will build, and the more competencies will be there to be showcased on your profile. And it's just not we're just not trying to bridge the gap, but we're also trying to minimize the time and the cost for the recruiters. As Satish mentioned, it's very important for businesses to look into those two factors while hiring anyone. And looking at the generic number of days of hiring that normally the industry pattern follows, it's a 45 days time span that is normally taken up. But we are trying to break that convention, and we are trying to help people get onto their toes and hire people ASAP, because of course everybody has a job. Dinesh just spoke beautifully about how it's a musical chair with the candidates outside. So thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. This calls for a wrap as well as closing remark from each one of you. Mellissa, let's begin with you.
Oh, I hope it was useful. I've learned a lot. Amazing panel. Thank you, Sukriti, for facilitating. But I've learned a lot. I think I need to relook at my resume. Is it really concise? So.
Thank you, Mellissa. Satish.
Yep, thanks. Really excited and learned a lot, even from my side as well. Different perspectives. So it's a good, and thanks, Sukriti, for inviting us.
Thank you, Satish. Deepti?
Wonderful insights. Loved listening to Mellissa, Dinesh, Satish, and Sukriti. Thanks for moderating and facilitating. Really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deepti. Dinesh?
Thanks a lot, Sukriti. These discussions usually bring in the different aspect, because these are some of the tech gigs that I've been a panelist on are general topics, but we don't get a chance to discuss it with other industry leaders. We are probably confined to our own world. 2 days in the office and 3 days at home. So, but this gives us a great opportunity to reach out to other industry experts and see what's happening in their world. Thanks a lot. Wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinesh. Although I am at neither fronts, not at the HR front, nor at the tech front, but for me, these conversations are full of learning, and I don't have to read articles when I communicate and when I conversate, with people like you on these forums. I don't think I need to update myself with articles and news much because I am talking to people who are experiencing, talking out of practicality and all pragmatic approaches of the business. So thank you. It was a delightful experience for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Audience, I hope you enjoyed this as well. And I'll be back with another discussion very soon. Meanwhile, also our women-centric coding competition, Geek Goddess, is on, and we are approaching towards the finale. A lot of exciting stuff coming up over the grand finale that we'll be hosting on 23rd November. So stay tuned, and I'll have some more, stellar panel joining me in the coming time. So stay tuned to TechGeek for all the tech updates and latest happenings. Dinesh, Deepti, Mellissa, and Satish, very grateful to you for joining me in this conversation. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.